Today I take a leap into a brand new indie graphic novel created by Henry Chamberlain, who also runs the YouTube channel called Comics Grinder, which I follow, and I highly suggest that you also take a peek at it. It's amazing. I've only sneak peeked a bit in the graphic novel, so today I look forward to read and share with you also the first 20 spreads that Henry has kindly forwarded to me. So you'll also be able to take a look at this graphic novel. And then I've asked Henry 3 questions that he has answered. Hello guys, welcome to the channel. So Henry Chamberlain wrote me and asked me if I wanted to take a look at his new graphic novel and maybe just film a little video about it, which I really wanted to because I'm an avid comic fan, and I have always thought it was quite interesting to take a peek at the indie comic book scenes, because this is where you read stories that are different and alternative than what else is out there, all the mainstream things. So I think it's very funny. I think it's interesting to take a peek at his work. And then I also think it's quite funny because for the Inspired by You challenge, which comes up on the 31st of May, I have thought about making a bit of a comic myself. So maybe there was some inspiration here for me. So the only thing that I know about the book is that it's something about a guy called George, because the book is called George's Run. It has something to do with the Twilight Zone, which is a mystical term to me. It's something, when I hear the word, I think I know what it is, but at the same time, I completely don't. So I look forward to dive more into it. It has been published by Rutgers University Press. But we will get to that. Let's just read the first 20 spreads, see what it's all about. Unfortunately, I have it here on my computer. It might be that I have to buy it if it's really good. I think it is. Let's see here. Okay, so here goes first. For Emma. George's Run. A writer's journey through the Twilight Zone. A graphic novel by Henry Chamberlain. Foreword. You're about to embark upon a journey with an unlikely hero who went on to become a legend. George Clayton Johnson. His unlikely Hollywood career began when he got a clever idea that he co-wrote into a script that went on to become the Rat Pack classic Ocean's 11. And that was only the beginning, since George was on an adventure. Okay, interesting. I'm just already now captivated by the drawings. I love the scribbly feel of it, and that the colors go a bit overboard of the line work here. I just want to make a quick Google, because George Clayton Johnson, who is that? And this is something I shouldn't really do, because you should always read a comic and then Google things afterwards, but now I just do it. Wow, so this was how he looked like. Just a quick Wikipedia sidetracking, and then we will go back. George Clayton Johnson, 1929 to 2015, was an American science fiction writer, best known for co-writing with William F. Nolan the novel Logan's Run, the basis for the MGM 1976 film Logan's Run. He was also known for his television scripts for the Twilight Zone, including Nothing in the Dark, Kick the Can, A Game of Pool, and A Penny for Your Thoughts, and the first telecast episode of Star Trek entitled The Man Trap. He also wrote the story and screenplay on which the 1960 and 21 films Ocean's 11 were based. Wow, interesting. So Logan's Run and the Twilight Zone, this is something I have to dive more into. I can feel that. It's like a magnet to me, the Twilight Zone. Let's go back to the comic. See if we can make this full screen. Yeah, that was better. Hollywood 2014. I was in LA to interview George Clayton Johnson. I had gotten a bit lost. I ended up pounding the pavement in flip-flops for longer than expected. But it was the perfect footwear to meet such a good citizen of the counterculture. I like this picture of wearing flip-flops, walking in LA. You have this feel of the warmth through the golden colors. Is that a weed leaf? I think it is, and a peace sign. Equal gender. I was able to clearly see George's life as an adventure, and in turn, I wanted to be a part of that adventure. I'd come from my home in Seattle to see George in person. I had a hunch that I had a lot to share from my Gen X viewpoint, but it was more than that, much more. It was about believing in my own self-expression. In my gut, I felt that our paths were meant to cross. December 5th, 2014. Oh, I love the colors here. After having interviewed George a few times on my podcast, we kept in touch on the phone. We could talk about just about anything. I had suggested the idea of doing a graphic novel about his life and times, and George agreed. George invited me to visit him at his home. Bit by bit, a project came to life. That visit would jumpstart what has to become the book you're reading. This is George's story. It's about a boy who loved great stories. He went on to write great stories. This is George's run. I love the simple way of doing the shades. Next spread. I had talked to George on the phone about my creating a graphic novel about him. There were a number of images and themes that came to mind. The goal was to see what matters most. So we have Frankenstein up here, the weird vehicle, a couple, cowboy, a man shot in the hand or holding something. We can have again the cannabis leaf, there's a theme here, and then we have the guy sitting here at the board. My job was to unearth secrets from George. I believe it's a lotus flower here. Here the colors went very saturated from these more brownish colors and then pop. He could be elusive, but I was patient. I was a blogger on a mission to explain my generation that grew up with late night Twilight Zone reruns to a new generation. In the future, we'll see the Twilight Zone on our wristwatches, just like Dick Tracy. Henry, future blogger, age 10. New Orleans, about 1973. Quiet down, the father says. You're a real geek, Henry. I have the guy walking here. Must be Henry, walking on the pavement here with the stars. I was there to make sense of it all. There was no guarantee that I'd succeed, but then again, I'd gotten to know George. And I'd be doing my research. I had read all the writers that George knew, at least as much as I could. I felt like I had gone back in time. The golden age of television could seem so distant. I hope to flesh out that era and bring it back to life for some readers. That is true, the age of television. I was born in '89, and around that time when I was a kid, there was still television, Flow TV, and you would put on a VHS tape if you wanted to watch a film and all that. And today it's just streaming, and it's a different world nowadays. The use of media has really changed. Next spread. Here I was about to meet in person a man who was part of the select group of writers behind the Twilight Zone. That's part of the story, one big part. There's also Star Trek and Logan's Run, but there's also bearing one's soul and proving you have what it takes. This is the vehicle. love the colors. Then there was George's celebrated cannabis crusade. Interesting. It left me feeling like Alice stumbling upon Wonderland. I was going in with an open mind. George, in many ways, was ahead of his time. Hi, George. Hi, Henry. Sorry about this. I'm trying to make this American dialect. I don't think it's going too well. I love the scripted parts on the pants here, the texture that Henry uses. You have a little peace sign up here in the windows, and then these rocks hanging here. That little cat here and the butterfly. Let's talk, Henry. I want to connect your story to the 1960s, all the way back. They always like to go back to Wyoming. Who are they? I wonder. Hold on just a moment. Comes a guy here. I was expecting a little pick-me-up of weed. Dear friend drops it off. That's loyalty. And then we have a couple of books here on the shelf. Silverberg, Bester, Pennell, Asimov, Simak, Bradbury. Let's just Google one of them, shouldn't we? Asimov. Isaac Asimov, American writer. Wow, those are some big beard. American writer and professor of biochemistry. During his lifetime, Asimov was considered one of the big three science fiction writers, along with Robert A. Heinlein and Arthur C. Clarke. He wrote or edited more than 500 books. He also wrote an estimated 90,000 letters and postcards. Best known for his hard science fiction. Hard science fiction? Hard science fiction is a category of science fiction characterized by concern for scientific accuracy and logic. Okay, this is a rabbit hole. But that was just to see one of those he had on his bookshelves. Let's go full screen. So George writes science fiction, and he's part of a counterculture. So I say Wyoming, you're leaving home at an early age, your roaming is in your stories. You shapeshifted. You did what was needed in order to survive. It was quite an adventure. I look back upon my life. I can reveal or hide secrets. I can tell you stories or not. Wyoming would unlock her secrets, and someday a buffalo would be mentioned on a brand new TV show called Star Trek. In telling your story, I want to get to the essence of the 60s and show how it resonates today. I have the anti-war movement here. The 60s kicked in with the help of science fiction. At the top, I place More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. Your research will bear that out. Theodore Sturgeon. Oh, there's so many references here that I gotta look up. The dawn of pop culture saw the rise of science fiction. For example, 1953 saw two signs of things to come. It Came from Outer Space, screenplay by Bradbury, and Theodore Sturgeon, More Than Human. It goes to the very top. Before Twilight Zone, George co-wrote the Rat Pack classic Ocean's 11. I can see now that I have reached 22 spreads of the comic book. I actually promised Henry to do only 20, so I hope you bear with me here, Henry. It's just a very exciting story. So exciting. I can feel that there's there's a big black hole of knowledge here, and it seems very fascinating, this story. I wanna dive more into it. I haven't been reading much science fiction. I've watched Star Wars, of course. I've never really watched Star Trek, actually. And then I've read Ursula Le Guin, whose father was an anthropologist. I like her universe and all that. But other than that, I haven't really been diving into science fiction. But I can feel there's many things here to go into. So yeah, that was the 22 spreads of the book here. And yeah, Rutgers University Press. I'll put a link to it in the description below here, so you can buy the book. It's $25 for a paperback, and it might very well be that this could be a birthday present for myself, because it looks brilliant, and I really like the line work here. There is kind of this naive feel to it, and this textured brushwork here is right down my alley, I gotta say. Okay, so let's just take a look at the questions that I asked Henry about the book and see his answers also. So first question, what is the book about and what made you want to tell the story? You can think of George Clayton Johnson as your guide to a whole world of creative energy, the orbit of writers working in and around Hollywood connected to the original Twilight Zone. I believe there are a lot of misconceptions about this particular show, and broadly speaking, that whole era of the 1950s to 70s. In this book, I try to give my interpretation. I think there's a lot to learn and enjoy. Sounds interesting. A lot of misconceptions about this particular show. I have no conception at all about the Twilight Zone. I only know that it's something with mystery and science fiction. But it would be interesting to hear Henry out what he means about the misconceptions about this show. 2. How is your process for when making a spread? Well, my process can be very messy at first. I'm jotting down ideas on any surface I can find, notebooks, napkins, scrap paper, and finally sketchbooks, and Bristol board and a computer as needed. This is funny, I also many times do that. I jot down an idea or a sketch on something. You just pick something that's closest to you and then get it down until it oozes out of your creative mind. So I can relate to that. Henry says, I want to be free to collect and process information. I do create an outline as I'm both the writer and the artist. I need a roadmap. Ultimately, I create a Bible of the book that I can go back to over and over and edit and refine. Question number 3. Do you have any advice to people who want to make their own comic? If you want to create your own comic, I'd be happy to help you. If you want to create your own comic, I'd be happy to help you. The thing you need to remember is that this is your dream and you are creating it on your own terms, unless you're being paid by someone else. And even then, you should fight to stay true to your own vision. Never give up. Always manage to have fun with the process. This is a lifelong journey and actually adds to your quality of life. If you remain upbeat and determined, you will succeed. So the advice is hereby passed on to you guys out there who want to make a comic book, and I'm pretty sure that if you write to Henry, he would be happy to help you out. It would be really interesting to hear you guys in the comment section, you who are listening to this. What is your conception about the Twilight Zone? If that generation is out there and seeing this, then it would be interesting to hear your opinion about it, because I don't have a whole lot to offer in that perspective, but I'd really love to read the whole book actually and learn more about it. Also about this character George, who seems very interesting. This whole thing about comics is just amazing, because you have storytelling, and you have, in this case here, also history, culture, and then you have the visualization, the storytelling in the visual pictures. And I think that's such a good way to tell a story. Getting pictures on it and seeing an interpretation of in pictures is really a good way to communicate a story. Yeah, so that was a little video about Henry Chamberlain's book, George's Run. Thank you, Henry, for sharing this book with us. Go buy the book and go explore all the rabbit holes that seems to emerge from when you just make one Wikipedia run. Then there's plenty of things to discover. yeah, till next time, people, have fun drawing.